Hey everybody, I know this has been a long time coming, but finally have finished inspections, have all the hilts that need to go out to customers here. We had to send a few back for repairs, but luckily we had enough buffer between what was sold and the number we received that I don't have to delay anybody's orders waiting for those repairs. So I will begin shipping the empties out this next week. I am invoicing everybody for shipping costs today, and I'm going to pick up some stain and start doing the stain on the ones that need to be stained. And the only other things we have waiting for are the wire for around the neck here, and I need to get a spring for the switch and retention screws for the blade. Those should all arrive by Monday, and then I'll start shipping these. So I just want to give you guys a quick overview of the box of the hilt, what it'll be like when you get it. So this is the box we've got. It's white with gold foil on the top sides, and then on the bottom we have the just credits to Derek at Phoenix Props, link to my own stuff, and a little note to the original designer from the game, Tanner Hartman. He's been super supportive of this, and big shout out to him for this artwork. Without it, this wouldn't exist. So here, yeah, the box is a little bit different than your typical saber box. It's not two-part. It's got a magnetic clasp on the front, and it folds open like so. So if you just pull on this, flip it over, you got a top foam layer to protect things. And then inside you'll have your hilt, you'll have your blade plug, which is packed separately, all the little bits and bobs for assembly. So these are going to come mostly assembled. There's a few things that I'm leaving unassembled because it will ease an installer's job if you're getting it installed. So for example, this frame here for the switch, that won't be attached. The little plunger for the switch is also in here. I'll have the spring for the switch in there as well. And then all the little pins and greebly for the wire that goes around the neck, because once you've installed that, it's difficult to take the wood off if you want to stain it or do anything with that. So I've left all this off intentionally to make that easier for anybody that's going to be installing or weathering or doing anything like that. You have all your tools, Allen keys, a little flathead screwdriver there's quite a few flathead screws on this thing. And then we also have the plaques, which were done by Christian Cruz. He is a wizard with laser etching on steel, and he managed to get the effects here in a goldish hue just using a laser. There's no printing or anything like that, so it's not going to rub off, it's not going to wear off. This is all etched steel. So huge shout out to him. This one says a concept realized. It's a custom black. The rest of them will be numbered according to the number on your hilt. So we'll get to the hilt now. So it'll be wrapped in this just to protect the surface finish of these. But this is what you got. I'll have, most of these will be wrapped like this. This is how the shop sent it to me, and it's to protect this wood. The wood can be pretty fragile. I want you guys to be very careful when you're assembling and disassembling, because it will crack. If it does crack, a little bit of wood glue and like a tape or a rubber band to hold it in place overnight, and it should be good to go. But you just want to be careful because it is pretty thin and fragile. But it is real walnut. For the people that requested stains, I will be doing stains. For the rest, I'll be sending out natural. I think it looks great natural, so if you shouldn't really feel a need to stain it if you don't want to. What else we got here? So all the finishes on this are just, I'm very pleased with the way the finish came out. We've got a mix of steel, brass, aluminum, copper, and all of them just look exceptional. And then if you take the pommel off here, inside the pommel there is an etched logo for Shadow Foil Props and your hilt number. So this one is 1 of 50. And so it'll correspond with the plaque. So I matched the plaques to each of the hilts, and the hilts are etched. And then when you take the pommel off, be aware that this will fall off as well. It's just a slip ring, and that's so that we can line up this with this. So, and it's pinned in place by the pommel. So just be aware that it might fall off when you take the pommel off. I will also go quickly through disassembly of the hilt so you guys understand how it works. It's this is going to be a little bit complicated. It might take a few minutes, but I want you guys to be able to see this so that there's no confusion or errors when you're working on these yourselves. So you'll want to take this plastic wrap off, and matter of finding the end of it. If we can find the end of it. Oh, there it is. Can be a little bit difficult. It's very sticky, but once you get the hold of the edge there, you can start to unwrap this. And this is what the wood looks like natural, no stain, no oil or glue or anything like that. This is as machined. I actually really like it. It is a bit porous, so you've got to be aware of that. It will absorb oils and stuff like that if you leave it natural, but it looks great. And then we have here, let me get the tools out. This here is the belt clip, and it's all stainless. It's been welded here and has a custom hinge. It should hold up. I don't know how many of you guys are going to be wearing these on your belts. It seems like it's heavy and it's very intricate. I would warn against wearing it on your belt, but you do with your lightsaber what you want to do with it. So to get this inner core out, you need to undo these. Not all the way, but just back them out a little bit. We don't want the screws to fall out, but they don't need to be backed all the way out to get the core out. And then there's also going to be screws that you can put here, here, and here to pin this in place. From the shop, they're not in place, just to make it a little easier. But once you've got the screws backed out on the belt clip, you can start pushing this out the bottom. Make sure I'm not missing anything. We'll just go ahead and back this all the way out just to make sure I'm not hurting anything. Alrighty. Some of these are pretty snug in there, and others are a little bit looser, and it just depends on the machining tolerances of your particular hilt. There we go, got that one out. So this is the inner core. This for the grip. This is where the chassis will attach to, so you can install this externally, and then slide it into place in the hilt. And the wrong size. It is all held together by a couple screws in the top and bottom here. Tighten those down, it's a little bit loose on this one. But you can see in here, there's a couple screws there, a couple screws here, and these are threaded on the top and bottom for 2 of those, and the other 2 are hollow for running wires. I have designed a chassis for this. It will be on Shapeways. It holds the Profi down here, speaker sits below that, battery is an 18350, sits up here, single switch, and then a NeoPixel connector that connects in here to the upper half of the hilt. So we'll set that to the side. So now you have your empty grip. You can see inside all the way down to about here. And this is where you would disassemble it at the midsection. This is where you need to be careful. If you rotate this when you don't have this piece bolted on, the one that's in the bag, if you don't keep this in place and you unscrew it, you have a chance this will rotate and it can crack your wood on either side. So just be very careful when you're doing that. Get a firm grip here, hold that frame piece in place, and then grab here, and you will rotate there and it separates here. So if you unscrew that, now we're loose. Now you have the emitter and the grip. So we'll focus on the grip first. So this piece just slides on. That's why it's free to rotate. It's pinned in place both by the upper half of the hilt and this switch frame, and it comes right off. It's a solid brass. Your wood grip is not glued on by default. It's just loosely slid in place. So if you grab this guy, you can very gently slide it off. If you want to do weathering separately to this versus this, I would strongly recommend anybody weathering this to remove the wood before weathering it. This is fragile. I would hate to see this get damaged. I don't have any extras of these. So just be aware of that. We'll set that to the side. And then you have your hilt here. These are metal. They've been anodized. Maybe powder coated. I think they're powder coated actually. And the rest of this is just one solid piece of steel. So we'll set that down there. Then you have your emitter. This is a fairly complex assembly. So this is all one piece. Once it's installed, you really don't need to take this apart again. But to install it, this ring here unscrews. We'll set that down over here. And then you have these 3 nuts here, which screw onto this threaded rod. And then the threaded rod goes all the way up to the emitter section here. And then up here, we have this piece, which screws down onto the chamber. So I'll just kind of, I don't know, you may need to get a longer Allen key in order to get these out, because the ones they included not quite long enough for that. So let me grab my toolkit. I'll be right back. All right, so I got my handy iFixit kit. I love this thing. So we are going to use this so we don't damage the emitter. And I believe it's a 1.5 driver down here. Yep. Nope, it's a 2mm driver. So I'll show you what I'm looking at here. In the emitter here, there are 3 hex drive socket bolts that pin this emitter piece down to the chamber. So you want to back those 3 out all the way. Once you've done that, this piece here, one of them still got some threads in it. Okay, this piece will come off. I would just leave the bolts in place on that, side to the side. That piece then pins the shroud on. So this is, you can rotate this if you need to adjust the clocking. It's just pinned down by the emitter. Then you have the chamber, which has an additional shroud. This has a hole here if you want to add a flathead screw to pin this in place so it doesn't rotate. But that slides off. It's also pinned down by the emitter. And then you have your chamber. At this point, I don't really see a need to disassemble it further, but if you wanted to, you could. You would undo these nuts here on each of these, and those are just on threaded rod that's running through these copper rings, and it threads into the top here. So you back those out, you then untwist the threaded rod with your thumb, and then this pops off, and each of these rows is a set of pieces. This isn't one continuous piece, it's a bunch of small pieces. So once you've got the top off, all of these will fall off. They're just pinned in place by all these nuts and the threaded rod. So, but rock solid. You really shouldn't need to take that apart unless you're wanting to swap something out, change something, or do individual weathering on the different parts in here. So then we want to put it back together. You take your aluminum shroud for the chamber. This slides down. Then you take your brass shroud for the emitter. That slides in place on top. You want to align this slot with the center of this bit here. Then you've got your emitter, which slides down on top, and it should be aligned slot here. It's this side, the higher, taller side of the emitter is opposite the taller side of the shroud. They oppose each other. And then run down through here with your hex drive again, tighten these all up. And then once those are tight, this is pretty solid, nothing should be moving. And then take this steel ring and slide it on here like so, and it just threads in place. All right, that's it for the upper half. Now we'll do the bottom half. And this one, you take your wood, again, very carefully, slide it into place. The notch section goes underneath the switch. Very carefully, so you don't want to crack this. Slide it down the hilt. And then we will put our switch frame piece back on top. At this point, grab it here. Make sure that you prevent this from rotating. You don't want that to spin. And then you will thread the emitter back on top. All right, so you can see here this is shifted a little bit, so you'll want to back that out, scoot this over so it's centered, make sure you got a real solid grip, and then tighten the emitter down on it. If you wrench this and this rotates, it will crack the wood, just a reminder. I've had that happen on one of my personal ones, so just be aware that that will happen if you're not careful. Then you have your inner core, which slides into the hilt like so. You'll see the smiley face side faces opposite of the belt ring. So this will go in here like this. It slides up into place like so. And then you have, I'll skip putting this back on, but you would screw these back on. You would put the screws in here, here, and here if you'd prefer. Your ring goes on here, lining up this little notch with that notch up there, and then your pommel threads in place here. And then for the final little accoutrements, you have the switch frame, which has 4 screws which bolt down here, and then you have the little pins that go in these holes here with a red wire running around it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will start getting these ready to ship, and I'll send those invoices out. You should see an invoice from me. Check your spam folder if you don't see it. Gmail hates me. They tend to send things to spam when I don't want them to. So just keep an eye out for that, and we should have these shipping this next week. Thanks, everybody.